There we go. Ooh.
Hello.
All right. Where are we? Chat here and what houses? I meet everyone. There we go.
Here we go. They're all coming in.
Yeah,
Gates are opening around the Thursday night.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining again on another Casa de Vinos tasting.
Good crowd tonight. We're excited for this one.
Good crowd tonight. A lot of new people coming in and
some who haven't been here for a while as well, which is exciting.
Shalini, David Botto, Dom, Robert again joining, Brian.
Oh my God, Jose, you said my name so well.
Yeah, it's good. I've been practicing. No. Brian, John Jankowski, long time no see. Peter Scott, Susan McKenzie, Karen Proctor, Justin, Kim, Mark, Ed. Once again, how are you, Ed? Shan and Gans over there. Kathy, Jason, Carl, James and Mike Leyland. And I have Rob outside. There's Rob.
Should we let him in?
No, we should have. We should have left Rob outside. He's not worthy. How are you, mate?
So single cask tasting tonight, kind of the bread and butter of what we do. I guess for anyone who hasn't done a tasting recently, it's best if you've got a couple of glasses in front of you.
Yeah, there will be a few people that's not done tastings with us before. I got too many. I'm like
Jose's already beaten us to it on the whiskey tasting.
Yeah.
For those who haven't done a tasting with us or haven't done one for a while, it's best if you can get 6 glasses of any sort of description, whatever you like. We just use these little nosy ones, wine glasses, whatever you've got there.
Ideally, you have 1 glass per drink. In this case, because we have a rum, with 5 glasses is enough because the rum you can't really compare with the rest. So, when we pour, do not finish the taster because we revisit the taster back and forth during the whole tasting. And if this is the first tasting, you will understand that you join with us. As you understand why you get a lot more. Out of the tasting if you compare them.
Yeah,
and that's what we do. And refreshing ale just to cleanse the palate.
Yeah, it's always good to have a couple of grainy microphone comments there, so I might play around with that a little bit.
Grainy microphone,
yeah. So what have we got it on here?
I must be the speaker microphone. Yeah.
Got the right one?
Yeah.
Testing. One,
testing. 1, 2, 3. Who says it's? I think it's just proximity to the mic.
Sounds better.
Sounds better. Gain on the mic.
Still shit, boys. Yeah.
Switch it down.
How's that?
Better.
Oh, and you're the...
No, it's super high. I do this. Come on.
Very loud. Maybe we can just...
Oh, there's not that one. Okay.
Okay, so...
Perfect.
The first round tonight,
we get this down here. Why is it so high?
Been listening to bangers again, Jose, and turning your mic up all the way.
That's a bit better.
Better?
There we go.
Now. Go up in the volume a little bit more now.
A bit more. No, leave it here. Leave it.
Up.
There.
Hey.
A little more.
A little bit more. Now, better.
Too much now. No, that's
good. Thank you.
Happy?
That's good. Now just switch your screen back on again.
Oh, John, so many.
I know, forgive me for standing high maintenance, but...
Do we really want to see them, though?
Yeah, you don't need to see me, huh?
It's more like
there we are.
It's bad enough we have to hear him.
Tasting radio tonight.
It's all this, what do we say, Alibaba peripherals that we have that they work for like 60 days and then they just
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotta stop buying these off the Facebook suggested
I
ads
reckon
from Wish and-
wish.com it came
All right.
with
So the tasting order for tonight,
Yeah.
Jose, how are we
so
gonna
the
go
tasting
through it?
order that we're gonna do for tonight is we starting with the Irish whiskey. Second, we go to the coastal style. Third one, we go to the Jura. Fourth, we go to the Otroisk. Then we go to Sullivan's Cove, and we finish up on the rum.
Beautiful. Cracking lineup. I think someone will whack that in the chat down there for anyone who
Yeah.
missed out.
So basically, the tasting that we put together. Let's start with the Irish. Let's put a little bit of sample on, or put your sample on your glass. The whole idea of doing this tasting was to get a bit of a mixed array of single casks. Most of them are cask strength, and be able to see different styles of whiskey. Because we have been doing for a while these distillery tastings, and when you taste a distillery, you normally stay on style. So even though we're using a mix of official bottlings and independent bottlings, you normally distillery stays on a very similar style.
Yep.
This one, as we are juxtaposing, my
And
lord,
there's Azalio's in the waiting room. I'll just let him in there.
big words I'm using today.
Juxtaposing. It's a good
Yeah.
word.
That's a great word. Let me take the tasting.
So putting up against each other, some cracking.
Yeah, putting
single
each
casks.
single cask of different styles of whiskey. So we mostly, except for heavily peated, except for peated, these are all bourbon style whiskeys. Yeah.
So this first one, Jose, tell us a little bit about the whiskey agency, I guess, first, because it was bottled by the whiskey
For who
agency.
doesn't know, the whiskey agency is a German independent bottler. Every year they release quite a bit of Irish whiskey, 2-3 different bottlings. And this is from their latest release. This is a 16-year-old bourbon barrel distilled in 2003, bottling 19, 246 bottles, and bottle at 51.9%. And we tasted this a few months ago.
Yeah.
But it was on the back of the arrival, so the bottle was quite fresh. Yeah, so very tight and wowee.
It's got a lot of air now, and I guess often this is probably most likely from Cooley's distillery, and these casks are often taken a little bit older by the whiskey agency, and when they get a little bit older, generally speaking, they can be pretty heavy in fruit.
Pure pineapple. This is heaps of pineapple. So basically, this is sold as secret Irish single malt whiskey. The origin of these casks are the Cooley's distillery. So kind of the word on the street is when John Tilling sold the Cooley's distillery to Beam Suntory. These was probably casks that were sold pre-sale of the distillery. And a few independent bottlers got hold of this Irish whiskey cask. The other independent bottler that released quite a lot of Irish is Cadenheads. And they all have the same provenance, right? Also, John Tilling kept a lot of these casks for the Tilling whiskey company that you guys know today. All the Tilling that you drink today, the older stock that you see, it's Cooley's stock that he was owned by himself, right? So basically, with that money, he opened the distillery. He opened the company, Tilling Whiskey Company, and the distillery from the sale of the Cooley's distillery.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure about this one exactly. When you get to taste the older ones, 28, 29 years old, 27, Those ones, they are said they are distilled at Bushmills, but still the stock is from Coolies. So apparently back in that time, Coolies was not distilling themselves. They were, getting distilled everything at Bushmills. But this should not be the Bushmills stock. I hope I don't confuse.
It is a confusing thing, and to get your head around.
Yeah.
So
For some reason, back on the late 90s, Coolies was not distilling themselves. They were using Bushmill stock, but they were bottling everything under Coolies brand and Irish whiskey, right? So,
Yeah.
So let's have a little noise. Everyone's already.
There's lots of interesting stuff going on in the chat. Do you get straight away? Do you get the sweetness or the savoriness?
No, sweet for me.
Sweet?
It's just pure pineapple.
Yeah.
Literally canned pineapple. That sort of Armona.
Yeah, I think that's where Gurns and Dom sort of heading with the juicy fruit. And then there's a little bit of a savory element behind there that Rob picked up, which I'm sort of getting as well.
Rob is saying red Napoletana sauce. Nice.
Yeah.
Made me hungry. Since the fire we had earlier today, I haven't had anything.
Yeah, weirdly, I just as soon as I put my nose in it, I just got a pasta bake.
Pasta bake,
which I was like, that's very weird. And then I pulled it out and I put it back in again. I was like, no, that's definitely
bake.
like a red tangy pasta bake.
Yeah.
I like Justin's lemon sherbet. I get that sort of acidity. It's like citrus or that sort of.
And that's there. I'm with the two Robs as well, though. I get a little bit more of that savory tartness. Rob Jankowski was saying Big Mac sauce, pickly, briny, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think it develops into that as well. And
in the palate, it's quite savory and salty.
Yeah, lots of malt there.
Lots of malt. Very nice.
And it's the first dram of the night as well, which is probably the one that we're all warming up on. So it's the
good dram to begin.
One that we'll all probably have a little bit of a different take on.
I always joke about these kind of whiskeys, right? Because this is Irish whiskey, but actually the biggest consumer that we have for these kind of products is the Scotch whiskey drinkers, which they drink this kind of whiskey if they drink Irish. Normally, our Scotch whiskey drinker don't drink like the standard, or let's say for our customers, don't drink the standard whiskey, Irish whiskey from the regular retail shops. And the Irish whiskey drinker does not drink these kind of because they are too expensive. But on the open market where these casks are bought and sold, basically this is pretty much the cost of single cask strength old Irish whiskey.
Because the demand's there.
The demand is there, yeah. And what's been driving the demand up basically is a lot of the new Irish distilleries that they want to release all their releases, but they don't have the stock. They are still able to buy on the open market all their casks, and they release them with their own brand, right? You see an example, Glendalough. Glendalough has 13-year-old, 18-year-old, 17-year-old. Those stock is not theirs. That stock is most likely all Coolies, or would have been Bushmills back then, or whenever they bought it, when they started the distillery, because there was not really much out there on the market. So now, of course, they do have the younger malts out there stock, but particularly the non-age statement ones, even the 7-year-old that they were releasing back then, I'm not sure if they will be their own stock. So those Irish distillers are still buying, and that's what drives the demand up. They buy 2-3 casks, they do a release, for themselves, and for independent bottlers, that brings the prices up. Yeah. Got the needle. What needle? Ready for an insulin shot. What's going on?
Yeah.
What's happening in the chat?
I think it was likened to some Passiona and Whiz Fizz or sherbet or something.
Passoa, the
soft
passion
drink
fruit.
can, yeah,
No, I
passion.
don't know.
UDLs. Then we got onto the.
I'm sure Dominic
diabetes
knows.
from there, and then
I'm sure Dom knows about UDLs and all that. Is that pineapple UDLs? No. Owen, what do you know about this bottling that you can top up? What?
Yeah, so we keep mentioning Cooley Distillery, but of course, most people probably haven't actually heard it go by that name before. You may more commonly, Dan Murphy's have heard of maybe Kilbeggan, which is a blended malt. Connemara, pretty big brand from Beam, is made at Cooley Distillery. They also do the Tyrconnell and a Two Gingers, but Connemara is probably their flagship that I would say. So when you see those Connemara products and those sorts of things, you'll see that they actually came from the distillery that we're getting to taste today.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was originally actually a potato alcohol plant, and sort of John Teeling as an entrepreneur came in and fixed up the distillery and sort of took it over and made some awesome stuff. It's really good. All of their malt whiskey is pot stills as well, so we don't get any column still whiskey here, but they produce a huge amount of grain whiskey. So 2.6 million liters per year of grain whiskey and just under 500,000 malt. So really heavy on the grain side.
I believe that's one of the reasons they were not distilling when they firstly started and they were using Bushmills, is because they only had columns. But one of the interesting things, I never had the opportunity to chat with John about that, but if I ever get an opportunity to ask you, it's like this: when the pot stills were installed was when he bought the distillery, they had only columns. That's what they were doing, potato alcohol, and poaching most likely, and I do want to think that what does make sense is they were not distilling themselves because you only had columns and they couldn't do single malt. So that's why they were getting everything done at Bushmills until they installed their pots. But there's no clarity when those pots got installed. Saying that, I would say it would be between 1988 and 1989, because it's when the very first single malt. That is the stock that is from Bushmills. So it will be a lot later than that. All those 27, 28, 29 years old today, they are all Bushmills. Those I don't know. They come from Cooley's, the casks, but they are all from Bushmills. Yeah. Very nice, huh? You like?
I really like it.
You
It's quite different than the normal whiskey agency Irish bottlings.
And it's a lot more open than the first time we tasted this.
So much more.
Who remembers when we tasted this the first time? It's anyone. You remember, Rob?
I do. I remember having a sneaky go beforehand as well, and it's changed considerably since then, I think.
Yeah, a lot more open, a lot more what's called just fruity, expressive.
Yeah, it's
I remember at the time thinking that for an Irish it was very good, but not having, and just thinking, oh yeah, like this is very good, and why aren't more Irishes like this? But not getting as much of the complexity that we're getting now. It's certainly opened
for an
up.
Irish is very good.
I agree, Rob. I reckon it's a lot better than the first time we tried it.
For an Irish is very good. He wants to get killed. they will take let's go and taste the second one, and of course, like we do and said before, leave a little bit behind so we can compare and we can continue, because the whiskeys tend to open up as we go on the tasting. So the whiskey agency, coastal style, 17-year-old, mature in a hogshead, 51.6%. Very interesting whiskey, coastal style, and they, believe it or not, that square there on the front label is like a button of PlayStation. If you see the whole series that they release, is like all the PlayStation buttons.
They did the sherry style,
the sherry style, the bourbon
smoky.
style, smoky style. Yep. What do we know about this? Let's ask the Oracle.
Yes. Oh, and the whiskey Rain Man.
This is going to be a little bit more interactive. Strictly speaking, we don't know anything about it. We know that it's a 17-year-old whiskey distilled in 2000 from an island distillery. So Justin's actually beaten me to it. The consensus was that possibly a Highland Park, but we don't know. Maybe Carsten from the Whiskey Agency would have called it an Orkney. But when we say There you go, Justin. When you talk about islands, there's a few that we have to narrow it down to. So we can talk about Tobermory and Lechec. So maybe you get a little bit of that peat influence from Lechec. We could see possibly Jura, stuff like Arran, Highland Park, Scappers, anything of those that's not on the mainland could classify as that island denomination. So give it a go, everybody, and see maybe if it twinges some of those memories of maybe an Lechec you once had, or an Arran or a Jura or something similar, and sort of see what everyone's guess is, because I'm not too sure we have an idea about it.
Warren joining. How you doing, Warren? You got a rugby t-shirt there.
Got to support the Lions. So once every 4 years, Pete, there's only so much you can support them.
Yeah.
Plus, I had tickets to be in South Africa right now, and I'm not, clearly. So there we go.
Oh, thank God you're not there. You'll be this probably not the best place to be right now. With everything that's going on over there.
It's an interesting place to be right now. Yeah, following the news.
Yeah.
Lock up your shop, friends.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Oh, you can come back home with a couple of TVs, new shoes, like a whole new wardrobe.
Very cheap.
Very cheap, yeah.
Bring the whole country back with.
Yeah. What do you do in South Africa? Oh, you just came back and bought a couple of TVs, microwave, fryer.
Interesting points, Owen. I think for me, it's particularly hard because I don't know if it really lands on one distillery for me. I don't know if it's got the sort of slightly more stringent tannic and flinty peat of a Lechag. I don't know if it's got that.
He doesn't have the flinty peat of the Lechag, neither like the delicacy of Tobermory. I think it's more like Highland Park style for myself, and doesn't have the amount of peat that a Jura will have. But saying that, we have a Jura coming, and we'll see that a bit later. So it will be easy to compare if
And this is the 17-year-old, is it?
17 years old, yeah.
And Highland Park have a lot of whiskey going up to that age to bottle for their 18-year-old. They do
and to be honest, I didn't ask. Actually, I was just talking with Carsten earlier today, and he's in Catalonia right now. On holidays. They get to go on holidays. No, they don't care. They just go on holiday in Europe. No, they've been locked in for a long time. But I could have asked him what
it is,
the origin of this. But this one came out when there was quite a lot of Ognis in the market. So I will be that kind of makes me think that it could be an Ognis.
I would think that's probably a pretty good call. Does anyone in the group have any particular inklings towards a distillery, or does it remind anyone of anything?
2000 distill, Alex. 2000.
Yes.
Brian, what do you reckon? You're a fan of these bottlings?
Yeah, no, this one's great. I've got 2 of these. I think about halfway through this one. Now this is a phenomenal whiskey, especially for the price. I mean, this is another one of those ones. It's it's a 17-year-old independent bottler that
single cask,
and I forget it's around that 200. I mean, you're not going to find an OB. Yeah, you're not going to find an OB for around the same price. And this is just one of those outstanding, just daily drinkers that it's just love it.
Ryan, it'd be good to have you on the weekends doing some sales. It's good.
Yeah, good. You're hired, Brian. Yeah. We should get him for a weekend job. Cash job. Oh,
I've learned a lot.
We're not allowed to say that, but
it's from picking up my samples on Saturdays and having a chat with Owen. It's rubbing off on me.
I reckon as soon as his daughter is a little bit older, he'll probably be willing to have a bit of a time off, getting a weekend job. What's in here? I was just Karin Van. He's saying that he doesn't think he's a Highland Park. Yes. The thing is that those Highland Park casks, they were all very different. Like the all of them Like it was pretty amazing the array. We had a few that we opened, and many of them they are so different to whatever. It's like the distilleries probably take on Highland Park. You know?
Yeah, and I mean their blending of casks for their 18-year-old as well. They're trying to produce a really particular whiskey, and it's changed a lot over the years. But I think their vattings of like hundreds of casks, right? So
Yeah.
they've probably got casks that they're trying to be really peaty, you know, showcase different things so they can blend
I
this
think
recipe.
yes, and also maybe Owen can find out for us that when was the acquisition by Eddington of Highland Park. But I do think that before the acquisition, it could be before the acquisition of Highland Park, there was kind of a very random profile of Highland Park. It's very different to what we see today of Highland Park, you know. And there was a bit almost like Bunnahabhain or Tobermory that was like all over the place. There was not really a kind of a profile of the distillery, which just started to happen quite lately.
Going back to the Irish now,
yeah,
it's getting quite a little bit confectionery for me. Like this Secret Island makes it a little bit more sort of sweet, but on the confectionery side, strawberries and cream, retro party mix, maybe that juicy fruit, but just a little bit more chewed.
Yeah, and yes, exactly that. And hang on, the Caravan was saying that he tried the 18 and he's very peaty. Yes, they're going through that path now, more like Tobermory being probably more late chag. It's what you see out there than, you know, that they are milking that side. For Eddington is basically using Highland Park as the peaty. You know, Eddington today owns Glenrothes, Macallan, of course, and Highland Park. And let's say the source of peat is Highland Park, I would say.
It would make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
I liked Ed, the Irish chocolate topping on the nose now, the Ice Magic.
Yes, they say about the Ogni. The thing with the Ogni is that the Whisky Agency already had a few Ognis the year they released these. So that's like another Ogni. That's why I think they just didn't put anything out. Didn't release this one as an Ogni.
About 2008, Jose? I mean, 2018.
Bottle in 18, yes. So this we would have seen this in the 19.
Yeah, I think that the Three Rivers has got one around that age as well.
Yeah.
From memory. Yeah.
Yes, there are these heaps.
And yours as well.
We bought one.
18?
We bought a sherry cask from Ogni that from them. Three Rivers had one. There were a few in Europe.
There's a blue label one like the Jura as well. It's about a 2000. I think it was bottled around the same time.
Yes, correct. It's very, this Ogni is very, sorry, this coastal style is very floral, but then it's a bit flinty to me.
Yeah, I think that was it John saying that comes through on the back palate. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it holds up as well.
How it holds up. Let's move on to the 1998 Jura.
The Jura, another one from the Whisky Agency, a little bit of a Whisky Agency marathon, mini marathon triathlon to start.
What do we know about Jura, Owen?
Sorry, taking my notes. Tiny island. There are 218 people that live on Jura as a little island. Jura is characterized as having three main pieces of infrastructure: a road, a pub, and a distillery. That is Jura. Interesting things is stuff like George Orwell wrote 1984 living on Jura.
Yeah.
It's owned by Emperor Dor, who owns Dalmore, Fennecan, the White and Mackay blends, that kind of thing. But it's been going for a long time. 1963, it really started to, it is basically the Jura that we know today. So they're one of probably proportionally the oldest distilleries to their size. It's incredible that they could have 50 to 60-year-old bottlings, and it's made on an island of only 200 people.
Yeah. The company is owned by, can't remember if it's Indian or Thai.
Filipino.
Filipino, yeah.
Yeah.
Filipino. It's a Filipino company.
And
Yeah.
they have 4 stills, and they produce the same amount of whiskey as Bunnahabhain, 2.5 million liters a year.
Yeah.
With a distillery that is incredibly tiny. It's also one of the really rare distilleries that the number of official, at least previously when I read the report on this, the number of official bottlings from Jura outweighs the number of independent bottlings that we've seen, which is, I don't know any other distillery that has that to be the case. They've released nearly 200 official bottlings in their time, and there's been, you said it earlier on in the year, it was the first time that you've ever had to write Jura on a label.
Yeah.
So it's really rare that we get to see these, and it's just super duper fun.
Yeah. Very interesting, this whiskey. Again, here is a 20-year-old, another hogshead. So very green. It reminds me like a Jack Weaver style.
Yeah, that's
Of
a
whiskey.
really good call. Vegetalness,
Hessian bags.
turnips.
Yep.
Wasn't there a Jura from Weber's as well?
Yeah, we had a Jura for Weavers. Maybe we had an old train line. It says Lamington.
I remember this Jura and the Weavers Juras were both standouts for the nights when we did them, when we were tasting them.
No, well, we didn't taste this Jura yet. You probably tasted this, probably thinking about here.
Have we had this one in a tasting?
No, we haven't had these two Jura.
I thought we did this about this time last year in a whiskey agency tasting.
Nope.
Nope.
I think because we had the bottle open, I think you may have tried a sample.
You might have tasted a sample or here.
I gotta check the notes.
Didn't we do it when we did the Rosdo and all that?
That was in the.
That's the Weavers. No, the Rosdo that came in with this. No, that would have been the tasting that we did when we opened up. And then you might have tasted this here.
My other book's inside. I can't go to it. For
Brian's
reference.
going to get his notes. The clarification off to the third umpire.
Super sweet on the palate.
It's so interesting that it goes from being quite vegetable on the nose to
Fruity on the palate.
Because I swear we did it when we did one of the shops because I bought one.
Yes, no, that's why. Yeah,
you
well,
go.
you tasted it here. That's what we didn't taste it on the online tasting.
Let's be fair, Brian. Last year was a bit of a haze, yeah?
Yeah, last year I can't remember. Yeah, I just remember we finished the tasting here and we ended up drinking. Yes.
What market was this released for? Was that the Taiwanese or something?
No, this is not for RM.
It's just a whiskey agency label.
Just a
It's no
whiskey
real
agency
series.
label, like would have been just local releases they do in Germany that normally don't. They are small releases, local shops and things like that. Sometimes as the importers, we get small amounts. Yeah, I like the nose. It's getting a bit more green, grassy, and hay more than Hessian bag. Let's go to the coastal style. So, what do everyone think about the coastal style and this? Would the coastal style be a Jura? Could be. Maybe. No.
no. I mean, it could anything
I
could
don't think
happen,
so.
but I think it's too vastly different. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it is.
You don't think it is? Let me send him a photo. Maybe he answers because he was online just now.
Another interesting Jura fact.
Yeah.
There's 6,000 deer on Jura.
Yeah.
To the 218 people. So that means that everyone's got about 20.8 deer each.
Yeah, they get to drink a lot of whiskey. Probably not. How many people work on the distillery?
That's what they all work.
Yeah.
Two at the corner shop, one at the hospital.
And that's it. Everyone lives on the
215
distillery.
at the distillery.
Yeah, packing warehouse. You know, the truck company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
27 employees attached to the Jura distillery, and they produce 2.5 million liters of whiskey per year, the same amount as Bunnahabhain.
What's your pick, John, right now?
So far?
Yep.
Secret Irish.
Secret Irish.
Mm.
Owen?
I kind of like them all for different reasons, but I think the Irish is just pretty standout.
Fruit junkies. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't fruit until now. Like the first time we tasted it, it wasn't, and I still don't think that fruit is like all that this has got to it. So it's got a little bit more complexity to it as well. What do you?
The Jura has quite a salty kind of peat at the end, but in the form of salt, not smoke. I like that. Irish liquid fruit sticks. Yeah, the roll-ups.
No, you know the mustics, the fruity versions of the mustics, multicolored ones.
No,
No.
but I was not a child. You know, I was not a children here in Australia myself, so I didn't.
You didn't get
probably
to
have that sort of stuff.
smell or taste the retro party mix and that sort of thing.
No. What's that?
You can have a smell if you like.
Oh, these. Oh, these. Oh, yeah, it is retro.
The retro party mix.
Retro party mix with the
Just as a stabilizer.
tea. Let's hear about a few other people what they thinking. Sean, what do you reckon? You I see Sean with 2 glasses, one on each hand.
It's just chatting to Rob about this Jura. It's I went in and the first thing that hit me was coconut. It was crazy. The first thing I got on the nose, and
the Lamington thing.
Yeah, and that's where the Lamington call came from. And then some chocolate came through, and then I had a go of it on the palate as well. And it was true to the nose. It was just absolutely Lamingtons. But I've gone kind of back through, and now I've had a little crack at it again, and it was. I got some of those things that you were talking about when you first smelled it. So I'm having it's like I'm traveling the opposite direction to you guys on this one. It's pretty cool.
I quite like this Jura now.
Yeah.
It's been slowly opening up and it's getting really fruity and losing a bit the Hessian for me. The who else wants to? Who do you reckon we ask, John? What the impressions?
Go to get the great John Jankowski and see what his thoughts are so far. What do you reckon, man?
With his Arbeg, is that an Arbeg?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Pick so far, John.
Yeah, it is an Ardbeg beanie. Pick so far, it's hard to pick at the moment because all 3 of these have been actually quite challenging on the nose and palate. They've all been 3 just complete different drams altogether that are taking all different journeys. Been really good, and I'm just having fun trying to break them all down because the second that I get my head around one part of it, then it just goes off on a different tangent altogether. This Jura is a perfect example of that.
The Jura is amazing now. It only took like 20 minutes, but it's becoming really fruity.
In 2 complete different directions in such a short amount of time as well.
I hope everyone gets the same that I am. I'm actually enjoying that fruit now. It's getting more similar to the Irish than.
It is fruity. It's also it is coconutty. I'm getting like a fennel-y smell out of it as well.
Yeah, the fennel ties up with what Sean was saying, the coconut.
Yeah.
Same desiccated coconut sort of semi.
Yeah.
Fennel.
That's what I'm getting on this.
Let's move on with the Otroisk. Oh, and now we need to know how do we say this.
Othroisk.
Othroisk.
Real Gaelic. So that name actually is part of the reason why the brand has sort of struggled in history. The name is attributed to a dip in sales. So they rebranded. Seriously, they rebranded. So they founded originally to be a copycat distillery of the Glen Spey distillery as like a workhorse sort of malt producer for blends. 1974 they came up. First malt in 78, and then in 1986 they became the Singleton, which I imagine people are probably quite familiar with. You see it on the shelves these days. They then went back to Othroysk in 2001 with Diageo releasing a Flora and Fauna bottling, and then all the way back again became the Singleton of Okroysk. So the name has gone through so many iterations of trying to sell their product because people have been put off by not being able to say the name. It's quite funny.
Because Diageo has had the same problem with Glendullan on Glendallan.
Glendallan, yeah.
That's been on the Singleton.
Glendala.
Yeah, Glendala. It's been on the Singleton range too. Like it's like they got everything that doesn't sell, they call it Singleton.
And it's just for the American market, especially like the Singleton. We get like the 10-year-old or even not even the non-age statement cheap bottling here. But in America, they I think have been like super successful with age statement bottlings and a variety of different stuff there.
Sounds Russian. Yeah.
It's a super malt and like blend forward. So they had a 2001 Flora release. They do 3.1 million liters, so really, really big distillery in terms of volume, and 8 stills. So it's a super big industrial sort of distillery, and it's the main thing in the J&B blend. It's not something I'm familiar with, but
Casterini and Brooks.
Yep. So more of an international market sort of whiskey.
This is actually very nice. What do you reckon? Bourbon Hogshead, 293 bottles, 1991, 27-year-old whiskey, 48.7. Not every day we get to taste 27-year-old whiskey. Well, kind of quite often here in Casa de Vinos, there, but
it's got a gorgeous palate, doesn't it?
The nose is really nice, and the palate is like so sort of sweet and salty, savory, and umami.
Yeah, I think often with slightly older drams, the palates can be a lot more delicate than this. And that's just the nature of the whiskey settling down in the cask. But the palate is still a lot lively.
Robert Boddington got it there. Yes, I was gonna say the same. Soft and salty Warren, probably this is the white miso. Smells like miso. Smells like a bowl of ramen. Cool. And Rob opened his eyes and was like, ramen. But it's like, And Caravan says vanilla custard. Yes.
Yeah, that's Mark there.
We gotta rename him because I keep on calling him that.
Keep calling him.
Mark. Yeah, Mark.
Caravan Proctor.
Why do you have that name, Mark? Let's rename him. You can do that. Yeah. I need to give you permissions. Yeah. There we go. Yes.
But yeah, this is a cracking dram. It's a little bit of a surprise in the Singleton, as Owen is saying, is like normally pretty multi-driven, great in blends. This is super duper lively for a 27-year-old Osterreutz. It's a really, really interesting whiskey.
Let's wake up our friend Dom because he was just doing a yawn. I caught him with the middle of the tough night or boring chat today.
Big week, Jose.
Big week.
Not like sleep. This is going to put me straight to sleep. All this.
Yeah. Maybe that's what you need. A good sleep, a good night of sleep.
Quite possibly, and this will help.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Dom?
Oh, they're a fascinating group of drams. I mean, I share John's sentiments a bit with. I've just been busy getting my head around each of them, and they do seem to go in different directions. Some of the palates have changed for me. Some of the noses have changed for me. I'm enjoying I've enjoyed all 4 of them so far, and possibly the Irish is my favourite so far. But
I would say the Irish is a good scapegoat. It's so recognizable what it does because it's like dominant is like fruit. There's not like too many profiles to it. It's like super nice and pretty. The other ones keep on changing. You smell one, you change to the other, and they're already changed.
Yeah.
You know, the Irish gives you.
I have found myself, Jose, wondering whether I've accidentally swapped glasses at times because I thought I was smelling one and it turns out to be the other.
Yeah,
it did the same thing though.
Yeah. Well, I've had to fall in my tiredness if I actually swapped glasses around accidentally because I thought I was smelling one, but it was the other one. It's been weird.
These are like interesting because the last three are, 17, 20, and 27-year-old whiskeys, not so young. So the complexity is there to have all these compounds that they keep, kind of changing.
What would your pick be
The texture on them,
if you had to have one on your bar cart right now out of the four?
the Otroisk. The texture is sensational. It's like so sweet on the nose, but then savory on the palate. And the white miso is, I think that core of white miso, it gives you the saltiness of like ramen that has a bit of like soy sauce, lifts you that. No, it's miso. It's not soy sauce. It's miso. Exactly, it's that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. And I go back to the after the Otroisk, I go back to the Jura, and it's Hessian bags again. Lost the fruit because the Otroisk is more fruity. I always say this, and many people has already heard this from me. This is interesting when you smell something. What is your palate threshold? Basically, when you taste something very sweet or fruity, when you go back to something that is also fruity but less, you don't smell fruit at all. That's why if you taste that, when you smell the Otroisk, you smell the Jura, then you go to Otroisk, you go back to the Jura, and the Jura smells savory and lost all the fruit if you ever thought fruit. And it would be interesting to try with the Irish and the Otroisk. Yes, the Irish loses the fruit also, but not all of it. See, you smell the Otroisk, you smell the Jura you smell the Irish by itself, and it's fruity, right? Then you smell the Otroisk, you go back to the Jura, the fruit is gone. Is your threshold level of fruit, it disappears? No, it gets rise so high that when you go back to something less fruity, you just can't smell it fruity anymore. I hope that makes sense. There's a hit of Crostangia going on the Otroisk, and maybe it's why that's macadamia and white chocolate cookies from Subway. What's that, Kim? The Otroisk?
No, going back to the Irish.
Oh, the Irish.
Nosing the Irish after the Otroisk. It's it smells like those really terrible Subway cookies that are amazing and everyone loves.
Yeah,
I have never tasted the Subway cookies myself.
Yeah,
no, I'm missing on something.
No, I mean they're probably like quite similar to those the Woolworths or Coles ones that you get that just in the
pack,
the choc chip ones.
Yeah. I tasted those.
Yeah, probably quite similar. The macadamia. I know what you mean, Kim. There's a bit of that going on here. What's your pick of the dram so far, Kim?
To be fair, I think the Irish is really coming alive. When I first nosed it and tasted it, I was like, this isn't great. And I sort of put it down and sort of didn't think much about it until we sort of got through to the Ockroysk, and then have just sort of circled back on all of them. But the Irish is really coming alive for me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. The Irish is a bit of a dark horse for me in the way that it's developed a lot since we first changed it.
We've been doing really well with the first whiskey that we taste.
Yeah.
Normally, we say that, the first whiskey is the weak link, the first one of the night. So you just come from whatever you're doing to taste whiskey. And the first whiskey of the whiskey tasting normally gets penalized because your mind is still somewhere else and you haven't started tasting, and it's, and the last few tastings, the number ones have been quite outstanding, which probably means that not that the number ones are or more outstanding. It's like we stop getting that pre-concept of shows growth.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to something closer to home. Sullivan's Cove, 14-year-old. This is the one we
So this is bottled for Casa de Vinos, which is a small bottle shop in Port Melbourne,
for
Australia.
Melbourne. Yeah, soon to relocate to South Melbourne. Our Sullivan's Cove, 14-year-old ex-whiskey cask. Many of you have already tasted this before. We bottled this for our 10th anniversary last year.
We haven't tried it in a tasting aside from our 10th anniversary tasting,
and we haven't put it against other single malt.
So,
so
it's an exciting opportunity to try it against these awesome classy single cask whiskies. And Sullivan's Cove in itself has a distillery characteristic that sort of put Australia on the map in the whiskey world. So the original ABV of this cask was 68.7. Of course, we diluted down to 56.5 because it was just too hot at 68.7. And we thought this was a great drinking strength ourselves. Sullivan's Cove,
what a nice
is sensational. The distillery profile is often like biscuits and wafers, creme brulee, really decadent sweetness of the best kind. And this is a refill Sullivan's Cove cask. So a cask that had Sullivan's Cove and then
so basically this cask was an American oak cask, which it was filled with whiskey, a Sullivan's Cove whiskey. Then it was emptied, and then it was refilled with this Sullivan's Cove as new make. So that's why we don't call it. It's not ex-bourbon cask. It's ex-whiskey cask, if that makes sense. The nose, what a nose! Wow, this is like Mars bars, dulce de leche.
And the palate is just gorgeous. It's so seamless from the nose to palate. The finish, whilst it's not a huge massive bomb, it lasts for a hell of a long time. It sticks around.
Yeah. Let's this one needs a little bit of water, kind of add a bit of water. I drink it like that, but
salted caramel on the finish, like those little chocolate salted caramel slices.
Fresh bake shop caramel slice. Owen loving it. I would like to hear some thoughts of what everyone thinks about this, because it's interesting to put this against single malts from Scotland, actually. Let's ask this Tasmanian man, this David
Bodle.
David Bodle.
Yeah. Declare the local bias, the Sullivan's just outstanding in terms of its, the balance, nose to palate, as you said, Jono. And I guess I've got a sweet spot, so I agree with Owen that, caramel slices and
caramel slice, yes.
It's just gorgeous. I'm just going to slip into a little double oak that I've got open. Sullivan's. They just released another refill earlier this year that they used one of their original barrels from back in the early days, and they refilled it. I've got a sneaky dram up on the shelf, but I guess I'm coy about opening it anytime soon.
This is
open and updated.
It's one of the interesting things with Sullivan's Cove is that today is quite difficult to get your hands on the bottles.
Yeah, absolutely.
First, you need to go through the ballot process. And we know the demand is there because we get a lot of demand ourselves. As a specialized whiskey shop, we get a lot of demand for Sullivan's Cove ourselves.
Yeah.
So we know the demand that they have. it's not a lie. If you say it's like we got at least an inquiry, 2-3 inquiries a week, and we are not Sullivan's Cove, right? So imagine the amount of inquiries they have themselves. It's crazy.
And
right?
I mean, one of the good things about it is they do have a very, very good and have for a while barrel program down there.
Yeah.
So they've got enough whiskey. They of course release it incrementally, but they do have a good barrel program. So it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. We're going to keep on discovering Sullivan's Cove. It's going to develop, and obviously they've got the new tasting room as well, the new sort of whole makeup they're doing down there as well. So
the new distillery when they are relocating there. John Jankowski, what do you reckon?
It's good stuff. From what I remember last time having this at the tasting with the Chichibu and the Sullivan's Cove, it was like this was the standout dram back then, and with rightful reason it holds an authority about it. It's just full of, very it's full of very bakery style flavors and notes. Like we mentioned before, Dr. De Leche. It's got a cafe latte style, with like a cinnamon sugar about it.
Cinnamon sugar. I love that tasting.
I definitely agree with that. Definitely comes through. It's very buttery, so that's why I mentioned croissants.
Croissants, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's an absolute ripper of a dram, and it's probably it's a really good dram to put up against these other beasts that we've had tonight. Because there's such a level of complexity about it as well. So yeah, it's been a killer lineup so far. So it's high expectations on the last one tonight, that's for sure.
Good for the Venezuela.
Let's ask
John.
Let's ask who we ask. Let's ask Ed. How are you, Ed? Long time no see, brother.
Hello. As soon as you put this in the lineup, go, I've got to get this. I've been fortunate to have it so many times, and I just can't get enough of it. To what John was saying, the baked notes, I'm getting like a coconut macaron off of it.
Macaron, I like that.
Yeah, that's a good call.
But yeah, no, it's stunning whiskey. You did well getting this into your lineup.
Thank you. I don't want to go back to the rest now. I'm really liking these.
It's really like a testament to the quality of Sullivan's Cove, isn't it? The power that this is having over the rest of the lineup. It is a testament to the amazing stuff they're doing down there, for sure.
Yeah, the artist at nearly 70%. Yeah, we got a few more just arrived, so we might.
The artist was the cask was it was 71, I think, something.
68 something. It's just a bottle.
Yeah.
Oh no, there's one there next to you. 67 point.
True.
Yeah.
And tawny. So the tawny casks, the ABV, they can stand up a lot higher. And the tawny can cut through a lot of that higher ABV, but any of the other
the nose on the OB
need
is stellar.
Need to be brought down a fair bit.
I love the nose. It's so vanilla, custard, dulce de leche, like creme brulee. I would say like the creme brulee with burnt sugar on top, not caramelized, burnt sugar or muscovado.
I think that's the standout from Sullivan's Cove is I know that it wins a lot of awards and the tawny is very popular, but the spirit itself is really outstanding, and it's anything that's sort of spirit driven from them is heads and shoulders above any other bottle that I would buy or have bought for myself. So these refills are just awesome.
Yeah,
they're great.
The who else can we ask? Robert Boddington. What do you reckon, man?
Of this?
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I just think it's a French patisserie in a glass. Like
French patisserie in a glass. It's the croissants. It's like butter croissants.
More.
I just like at the beginning of the nose, I was associating it with like really well aged Chardonnays that have that like earthy creaminess, and then as soon as you like put it in your mouth, just the caramel notes and the saltiness and the beautiful balance that you get is just, as everyone's saying, like the macarons, the creme brulees. It's like those perfectly balanced French desserts that you get, where it's just like one mouthful is just all the aspects of your senses. It's just great.
That is a great definition, not for the whiskey, but it's like what he said about like a French patisserie. That's you get like one mouthful of a dessert, you know, and it's like creme brulee with the sugar on top, but it's like imagine like hard caramel, and it just breaks down, and you're like, oh, that's nice, and it's bitter, it's sweet, it's salty.
Yeah, that ticks so many of the boxes.
That's really nice. Wow, I haven't tasted this in a long time, I must say. And I'm very happy with it.
That's a stunning one, huh?
That's
Really,
a
really
nice one.
sensational whiskey.
What who else we some of the new people, Shilan Chalini. How are you guys enjoying the tasting? Good?
We are, yeah.
What's been the standout so far, you reckon? Or what you liked?
I'd have to say it was the last two, so the Sullivan's Cove and the other one that I cannot.
Otroisk.
The Ostroisk.
Don't worry, I cannot pronounce it myself.
We all just have a go.
And we know it's probably Owen's mom who told Owen, right?
The more you roll it, the more it sounds like you know how you say
It's
it.
probably your mom. It's your mom, I'm sure.
That's true.
Oh, good stuff.
Owen's mom is a good friend of the house, and she's very good at Gaelic pronunciation, I must say.
Yeah.
And coming from a Uruguayan, you know.
She just likes being right. That's the situation.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Coming from a Uruguayan, you know, it's even John could be very good at Gaelic pronunciation. I'm terrible, but yeah.
There's a couple of people in the chat who are doing their first tasting as well. Susan, what's your favorite whiskey of the night? What do you think? You might have to play around with the unmuting sort of thing there.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Good.
I think I liked the Sullivan Cove really well, but I didn't like the Irish when we first tasted it. But then when I've gone back to it, it surprised me that I've really liked it.
You just need a little bit more time. That's exactly what we define as the weak link. Normally, when you are, you know, whatever you're doing during the day, your work, your, you know, or just home doing whatever, and your first taste of whiskey, normally in a tasting, it normally gets penalized because your mind is somewhere else. As soon as you sync on the tasting, you relax, you start tasting, and your brain becomes
more relaxed
into whiskey. But the first whiskey usually gets penalized because of that, and you normally don't revisit back. To be honest, not many people do that on tastings in venues, because sometimes the tastings are branded. So when you go to a tasting, you normally taste your 10-year-old or your 12, 15, 18, 20, etc. So you don't tend to go back. So your impression of the first whiskey of the night is not the best, and you don't tend to go back because here, as this is what's called a horizontal tasting. A vertical tasting will be when you start with a distillery and you taste in incremental. That's a vertical tasting. These are horizontal tasting. All the whiskeys are kind of at the same level. They are all cask strength. They are all over 15 years old.
And often what we do, and like just by the nature of doing this, is we jump into a tasting and we're not warmed up, you know. But you're not going to go into like into a sporting event, a marathon or whatever, without stretching.
Correct.
They do beforehand. So it does take a little bit to start getting into gear for actually nosing and getting. That's why I've got my wine glass of retro party mix, just from 5 o'clock. Just start warming up.
Start warming up with the party mix.
Yeah, but no, that's great. And Susan, thanks for joining us as well. I hope you are enjoying it and getting something out of these single casks. There's some interesting ones here. Another one there that is normally we'll always do our gin tastings and our cocktail tastings, and I hope you had a good cocktail pack for your birthday on Friday, Kathy. What are your thoughts on the on the drams tonight. Do you have a favourite?
Thank you, Jono. And Friday was such a great night with all the cocktails. So thanks for helping us out for that.
No worries.
Yeah, whiskies is not normally something that I try, having done a lot of your gins, but I've gone back to the Irish, actually. Yeah, I have gone back to the Irish after trying them all and going back. So yeah, I'm going to say that's where I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
So that's makes a lot of sense, Kathy, and that is also Irish whiskey is a very good introductory whiskey if you don't like or whiskey is not yet your thing.
Yeah.
It's because it's fruity, it's soft, it's delicate. It's a good whiskey to start with. You saying that you also this is a very good Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
But it's not very polarizing. You cannot dislike I must say, in this Irish whiskey, you can never dislike. It's very nice, very, very secure in that sense, right? It's very, it's a sure shot, I would say.
Yeah, it's just stellar whiskey. And particularly,
but sometimes it can be very harsh.
Particularly
Irish.
the older ones as well are going to be quite fruity. Not approachable in terms of price point, really, but absolutely stunning in terms of the profile.
Dom was just saying there that his favorite is the Sullivan's Cove, and not often we put Australian distilleries together with Scottish distilleries. This was a what can I say, like a big call to do it, but we know this cask stands up to 20-year-old Scotch, and you can see that now. Like it's not like, even if you might disagree that is maybe not the best or the best you consider, but still stands up to 20, 15-year-old Scotch whiskey. So
stands up, and I reckon gives them a red hot crack. I think that anyone in Scotland or Europe doing this lineup, they'd be pressed to say that it doesn't. It's a terrific.
Now I'm getting ginger on it, like ginger biscuits, gingerbread man.
Ginger biscuits was a tasting note that we really got a lot of early, like particularly when we first opened the bottle.
I don't remember. It's too far away. Too much alcohol in between. Too much alcohol in between October and here.
Yeah, fair enough.
The 29-year-old Irish was magic. I know, Mike. That was something else. That was like the 73 Speyside that we tasted earlier this year. That was like, woo.
It's a whole another level.
Remember that 73 Speyside? That was masterclass whiskey level. Yeah. Wow. I don't want to go into the rum.
We'll ease into the rum, and perhaps before we jump into the rum, we have a bit more of a chat about these drams. We could talk about the discount code, which Owen's thrown there in the chat.
And we can tell them about the next tastings that we do. Yeah. So next week is a very big tasting. David is leaving the rum for another night. Yeah,
you've got a bottle of it as well. So.
He's got a bottle. So next week's tasting, we're tasting one of our favorite distilleries here in Casa de Vinos. For who doesn't know, Chichibu Distillery is the Sullivan's Cove of Japan, right? The smaller, most highest regarded distillery in Japan,
most sought
after worldwide, crazy, like they have no stock or of anything, and so
juggernaut in the craft distilling scene.
Yeah, one of those that started dive into whiskey when it was crazy in 2008 when they started. Or 2006 when they started with the brand, but in 2008 they started distillery. At that time, you would never think about Japanese whiskey. It was like,
And if you like the French patisserie, the bakery notes, the brioche, the sweet pastry notes, then the first 10 is a sample you're going to want to try.
This is the first 10-year-old that they have ever released. This bottle is as hot as you can get, pretty much. So, there's none for retail, but to give you an idea, the price is around £1,000 in the secondary market for this bottle. So around a $2,000 bottle. So it's quite crazy. We are very lucky to be the importers of this brand, and we are Chichibu Distilleries. They are really good friends of us, like Sullivan's Cove is. Yeah, we're presenting the 10-year-old next week. So it's gonna be like,
it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really good. It's been building up to it for a lot. So that with the Mizunara, with Reserve, the double distilleries, the limited edition, they're all whiskies that have their own little story to tell in the journey of moving up to that first 10. So it's exciting. The week after that, we're doing an Old Putney discovery tasting. So
the week after that, yes, the Old
floating in the
Putney.
Highlands, we've called it, Jose, a rather good name, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, the Old Putney is the most northeast distillery in continental Scotland. They are actually on the sea, so pretty much it's very coastal. But they are not an island, they're on the mainland.
Yep.
We tasting the 12, the 15, the 18, and the 25, quite rare, 25. And we're very lucky to get a 1983 vintage one.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, it's on the way here. So, and an independent bottling, and that's going to be pretty epic distillery or Putney, something that you don't get to see every day.
It's a really stunning lineup, a cracking.
Yeah.
And it's not one of the ones where it's like the 25-year-old is produced in super high quantities. This is quite a hard product to get. So
yeah,
it's really going to be interesting to be able to try this one. And there's not often you do a parallel or a tasting like this at the Old Putney range, which is super exciting. And then the week after that, the new tasting, we just announced
the tasting.
And if you want to get any of these tastings, you can use the code RARE.
With the code RARE tonight, you get 10% off the whole website.
So we've got a tasting, which we know there'll be a lot of people excited for. Brian, I know you'll be excited.
Right,
Dave B, I know you'll be excited.
We're about to ask Ryan to get some of the Ben Nevis 7.
To get some back.
Get some back, sell it back.
So the next tasting, after that, we're calling Hiking the Nevis, Climbing the Nevis, the Ben Nevis 2021 tasting. We like doing a Ben Nevis tasting every year.
Yeah.
Because we love it. So
every year we do 1 or 2 Ben Nevis tastings. And this one, we got an array of single cask official bottlings, plus also small battings, a single cask independent bottlings. Official bottling single cask Ben Nevis over 20 years. They are very, very hard to come by today. We're still dipping on my own collection. And the Lake Library. Yeah, and the Lico Library, we're opening 2.
And this one?
Not that one.
And this one?
Not that one. This is one of the first editions of the McDonald's traditional Ben Nevis. Not the very, very, very first one. This one, they were already filtering. But yeah, still a great tasting of Ben Nevis. We love Ben Nevis. It's a sherry galore, right? And something I've been looking forward to, a very well-priced 9-year-old bourbon cask Ben Nevis.
A Ben Nevis, which literally just landed to Australia
today.
So
that is very good.
It's going to be
9-year-old bourbon cask Ben Nevis. We all know how good Ben Nevis with 9 years, below 10 years old in bourbon cask is. Brian particularly knows how good it is.
Oh, I'm so excited to try this one. That's gonna be super fun. So those ones coming up, and also for the bottles tonight, I popped in. Normally we're completely out of stock of the Sullivan's Cove, but I just popped a few more up there. And these might be some of the last ones that go online, I think.
Yeah.
So there's a couple more bottles, only 3 or 4 online. And if you want to use the code RARE, then you can get a 10% discount off, which I think will make that a pretty good purchase for what that bottle is.
And let's go into rum. This is rum for, you don't need to finish your drams. Can you pass it on? I cannot
go that far.
Rum for whiskey drinkers. We did a rum tasting last year, and we put this on. Rum is a very difficult product to sell in Australia, right? I think Bundaberg has done so much damage also to some of the people, and also has done good around the world for Australian rum.
Yeah.
Like with awareness, but not sure if it's the right awareness. Anyway, unfortunately, we don't get to see the nice stuff of Bundaberg, which I'm sure there is a lot, but we don't get to see it quite out there. Why is it difficult to sell rum? We don't know. In Australia, people are looking for rums that are quite cheap, and the perception is rum is cheap. So when you take cult products, I would like to call them, like this is a single cask rum from Venezuela, from Compañía de Alcoholes del Caribe, state company, of course. How good! Imagine state company is. Here they own railroads and stuff. Over there they own rum distilleries. How good is that?
Yeah.
Imagine the Australian government will have a distillery. That would be debaucherous. Especially in Queensland.
I don't know if we want that.
Yeah, that would be a new concept. Imagine that, proposing that in Parliament. That would be crazy. We should open a.
You get your job keeper and one bottle of rum.
Yeah, right. Imagine it's like that. Yeah. Putting forward open a state distillery. That would be crazy. Anyway, this basically this is a straight cask strength rum from Venezuela. On top of my head, this is column distillation. Have a little nose and see how savory is that. But there's heaps of like chocolate cocoa nibs, a bit of nail polish.
Yeah. That exotic wood and spice,
camphor, like that. You see the chopping blocks that smell like fancy. I've seen the camphor chopping blocks, like wood chopping blocks. Like platters and
yeah.
There's a wood called camphor, which all kind of smells like tiger balm.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But they made chopping blocks are very camphory.
This is marriage of two casks. It spent I think 11 years in Europe and 11 years in Venezuela, sorry, and then 1.5 year in Europe, and 60.9 ABV.
So Transcontinental Rum line is a line of rums that La Maison de Whisky releases, where they buy stock in the tropics and they age also part of the life of the cask is aged in continental Europe. So that's why it's called Transcontinental. This case is 11 years in the tropics, 1 year in Europe, bottle at 60%. But the thing is that aging in the tropics is almost like double. So accelerated, So this will be an equivalent of maybe like a 20-year-old rum if it was in Europe, maturing, right?
Yeah.
Most of the rum trade in the world is done through, believe it or not, Holland. But the casks mainly are lying in England and in Antwerp, of course, in Belgium, as big hubs. So they bring young casks over there and they keep them until they sell them, right, in Europe. That's why you end up having rums that are mostly they're like 15 years old and they taste very young because they've been mostly mature in Europe, not in the tropics in South America. The nose is stunning, huh?
Yeah, it's incredible.
And after drinking all these whiskeys, you smell this and you realize why I call them rum for whiskey drinkers. It's also quite dry. John Jankowski is nodding with his head. What do you think of this?
Yeah, definitely. It's a lovely complex number. It's like I've just written down the notes. It's a Chesterfield in liquid form. It's got furniture polish. It's leathery, but it's also got that like those like the cocoa nibs note that you mentioned about earlier as well. Definitely pick up on that. This is a really lovely rum. I like it. Always nice.
Yeah, it's a little bit like let's see if Robert follows me. It's when you get the chocolate croissants, but you eat them cold. I don't know if you ever done that. Have you seen the chocolate croissants? The ones that are like, but you eat them cold, you know, it's like, and it's like, they're not sweet because there's no butter there, but it's like the bitter of the chocolate inside. And it's like,
the butter solidifies, like
yes.
kind of solidifies. It doesn't have that richness anymore. So it becomes like neutral butter if you take it straight out of the fridge. There's no creaminess.
Yes, that's like that's my boy. It's like, that's why you dig into like at 2 a.m. Like, where are the croissants that we bought the other? I've been there so many times.
Nail on
And
the head.
exactly it's like that, solidified butter with a bit of chocolate on there, and that's sort of
and it's really good. But it is, the transcontinental rum line is immensely good, and it's quite different. And this aging in the continental climate and then taking it to Europe, it really sort of in a way just takes the whiskey down, closes it up, and adds this like extra element of complexity to it. Like we see it in the Australia they've done where they finish it in cognac barrels. The Hampton cask we tried before where they finished it in cognac barrels in Europe as well. It's a line of rums that has a lot of potential. Probably not that Australia as a broad, wide consumer base is necessarily ready for. It takes quite a bit of understanding and willingness to understand and get involved in this sort of line. But I think that it's something that hopefully over time people get to understand the brilliance of it, because it is really good.
The whiskey drinker palate is a lot more educated than the rum drinker palate. That's why they understand these rums better than even the rum drinker. Yeah. And by the way, Owen, we have a reply there.
There you go. It's a Highland Park.
It's a Highland Park.
So that theory of lots of Orkneys in 1 year and he changed it up to sort of differentiate is true then.
Yeah.
Definitely Highland Park.
It's Orkney. He just put the Orkney.
Fabulous. So on that rum conversation, I certainly agree that it's it's a little bit difficult for sort of your average rum drinker. But Jono, we saw, for example, a customer a couple of days ago was looking for some really cool, unique rums in about the $120 price range, and that's what we saw with La Maison's Transcontinental range. They all come in between like $100 and $150, and they're all unique, all special. Like the Beanley that's done in cognac casks, and the Worthy Park that's cask strength, like all these different styles. We're starting to see a new breed of maybe younger rum drinkers come through that have an appreciation of the spirit, but don't necessarily want your Captain Morgans and your Bundabergs. They want something a bit cool and unique.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone has left Otro is there. Give it a whiff right now. It's unbelievable. Wow, that nose. That is like, now it's like, whoo. It's I can't put my finger on it. Maybe it's more pastries. That's probably raw that made me hungry. Talking about French pastry.
It's the liqueur chocolates now. It
tastes like peach. It smells like peach schnapps. How do you say that? Can you say that? We have too many SHs
peach schnapps.
for a Uruguayan. Peach
SC schnapps.
I can't too many CHSHs together on a very short amount of space. Peach schnapps.
No, I think Rob's hit the nail on the head there for me as well. It's that sort of that Lindt chocolate ball, that like decadent chocolate ball with some sort of like be it a strawberry or whatever, like in the middle.
Always saying sniffing permanent marker in high school kind of smell.
I was agreeing with Uzalio.
You said it takes me back to
just those white ones with the blue, red, and green.
Or someone found a Sharpie in the back of a.
So hard to get pot down there. Back there. Do you smell Sharpies?
Tassie in the late 90s, early 2000s.
You see how you do ice? Really? You see how you do ice, or you smell Sharpies? Like there's no like.
It's a gateway drug, Jose.
Gateway. The Sharpie is the gateway drug.
It's more of an art line for me than a Sharpie, I think.
Yeah,
Art
definitely.
line, good mate.
Right.
Art line. I can
Yeah.
say nothing more disappointing than try. Smell. Let's say whiteboard markers that are not oil based or whatever it is. It's like I think there was a point in life when probably maybe it was I don't know what kind of change, and these things that were not permanent appeared.
Yeah.
And that
That
was the smell of-
Ultra is stunning, and it's still like hanging around deliciously. I'm a big fan of that as well. I think the Sully's has to take it for me, but
the Sally's is
the
killing
Austria
everything right now.
isn't too far behind. Warren, obviously you're with us always, mate, for any sort of gin cocktail tasting we do. And you don't mind a whiskey. What do you reckon about tonight?
Warren
What's
is
your
all
pick?
terrain.
Yeah,
It's like 4-wheel drive.
All terrain. That's a call. Yeah, the Sullivan's is stunning. Like it really is. It's a very, very, very special whiskey. But yeah, I don't mind a rum. I'm a bit partial to rum, and there's a few rum distilleries around Victoria and around the country now. So might need to look at that as an option when we run out of gin distilleries. Which what we got now, 450 to go.
Yeah,
we got a couple.
And that
more
was
than that.
yeah, that was a sensational tasting, guys. It really was, and every single one of them came back much different for how they first tasted, which was really.
That's good to hear, man. And
I'm
now
still on the
you
jury.
and now, Warren, you see why we went after the Sullivans to the rum, and you see how much the Sullivans prepares you to the rum, especially the palate, right? It's the biggest whiskey. The Sullivans is the biggest whiskey on the lineup. And leaves it on a tray there for the rum, which you can't compare. But it's like amazing to be honest, enjoying the Sullivans really well.
My old boss bought me a bottle of that. Gave me a bottle of Chichibu when I finished working for the Japanese, which Tom and I have been slowly drinking over the last few weeks, and I've just realised the price of it. But it tastes that good.
Chichibu is amazing. Like it's unbelievable. And we will have a Chichibu stand on Whiskey Abbey. That is I don't know if everyone knows, so we were doing a festival, a whiskey festival. It's looking really good. By October, I reckon, hopefully we're down to like 70% vaccinated. Touch wood. Whatever, no more lockdowns, anything, and we go ahead with normal capacity, and we will have a dedicated Chichibu stand where I will open a few bottles of the collection. So it's gonna be we have the 10-year-old, we have a few limited releases for the we're getting the blend with Mars for that festival, and we also we're opening the Paris edition 2020, and I need to check what else do we have there to highlight. There will be a lot. We have a lot of
the Chichibu stand will be a fun stand of the day, and there's lots
I
of
reckon
good
it's gonna
ones
get
there.
nuts. I have this feeling it's gonna go. Yeah, big time.
So it's really good. It's exciting.
The rum, I just want to taste the Sullivans. I just want to drink the Sullivans card. And we drink, to be honest, we drink good whiskeys very often. This is very good. This is stunning. What a nice, my gosh. Like I honestly haven't tasted this whiskey in probably around 3-4 months. Yeah,
it's an absolute cracker. I don't think we've gone to
Mark. Anytime, we got plenty of rum and plenty of that. We just got a few more bottles of that rum.
I don't think we've gone to Just yet tonight.
Justin,
and is having
we just got him
cheeky little vape there. Dram of the night. What are your thoughts?
puffing away.
The Sullivan's is very surprising, tasting it so long after we've tried it. And you'll probably see me pop up. I just bought a bottle of it, bought a second.
Oh God. But tell me something, Justin. It's like you normally have you ever had this thought of like, that's what I do sometimes, like when you do tasting with Scotch and Australian, you just don't want to put Australian with Scotch because sometimes you're like, well, we tasting this kind of, it's not kind of not fair sometimes. And then you do something like this and you're like, wow, we do can punch up there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, look at the age on the Sullivans, 14 years. You can't really find much around Australia with that sort of age on it. You know, you got some Bakery Hills getting up there in age. But, you know, to hold its weight against some of the ones you got here, you know, 17-year-old Orkney, 20-year-old Jura. The Jura was really surprising. And we didn't try that Jura previously. I went to the archives. It's not in there. But that Irish is always a favourite of mine. And I think you undersold that Irish tonight, Jose. That's a really good dram. It held its weight against the older brothers of it in that tasting, I thought.
Yep.
I agree, Just. And I reckon, you know what, those sacrificial first whiskies are shit if they're shit whiskies. If they're good whiskies, they stand up the whole time.
Yeah.
Go show you how good the lineup is tonight too. And you know what's an interesting one with this Irish is I think it's the 26 secret space side we had from the Nectar.
Yeah.
Do a side by side with that and it'll hold its own, I reckon. I can do one for you because I've got bottles of both. So
Justin's tasting next Wednesday night.
Yeah.
No.
I'm glad to hear those thoughts, Justin. Yeah, it's amazing. What Sean and Guns, what's there? You probably, there's a lot of I reckon there's a lot of discussion going on. I see Sean nodding and talking back and
I hope you.
What is there? It's like you get into an agreement. What's favorite, or you're like divided?
Oh no, we're having a bitch about the COVID situation in New South Wales.
we smuggle you, man. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We get you into a trunk or something like that.
like I said last week, we'll have one lockdown between now and the end of the year.
You're getting out in November. At this pace, I feel for you because you remember he was open when we were all like locked down, and he was one of those that probably saw our deterioration. Did you get to notice that, Sean, when we were last year, our deterioration over the time, which is like it's
such a bit more loopy.
I remember the middle of it. The middle of Victoria's lockdowns, these tastings went on very late because it was the only socials that we got, and I think Kim and Rob and I were up until 2 a.m. once.
Woo! That's amazing. It will be for Rob and Kim will be the only contact they had for weeks.
That does not surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, I've been up that late with Rob and Kim too.
a couple of weeks ago, Rob and I caught up with some other friends, and we were on a video call till I think, what was it, 4 a.m. Rob?
Yes, just about 4. I think I got to bed about 4:15, 20 past.
We started about 6 and finished up about 4.
Yeah.
It's safe to say I was feeling a bit sorry for myself on the Saturday.
Yeah, that was a Friday evening, and I was pretty dusty on Saturday.
No one has kids though. These guys don't have kids. That's the thing. It's like if I do that, we'll continue on the chat a bit, and I'm just gonna stop recording because we're not doing any favors to ourselves.